Hello, cherished viewers. It's that time of the week again where we bring you exclusive content on human rights. As you know, we do this because of our love for humanity and the desire we have to ensure that your rights are protected and respected at all times. I'm Amanupe, your host. To better understand the topic for today, I have with me two important personalities. In their respective fields, they are very great. They are very good in their respective fields. We have lawyer Cletus Alenga, who is a private legal practitioner here in Ghana. We also have with us Dr. Timothy Senunyeme, who is an obstetrician gynecologist at the University of Ghana Hospital. He also has a public health background, and he's also a reproductive rights activist. Yes. So I know you are wondering why we have a reproductive rights activist in the studio today. That is because the main topic for today is reproductive rights and abortion. But as usual, before we delve into the main discussion for the week, we will look at the life and livingness segment. And the topic for today's life and livingness segment is, when you cheat on your partner, must you tell? And if you must tell, at what point do you make that confession? We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get to business. This show is powered by Nupe's Foundation and Family Affairs, and also supported by Syllabites G8. You can check them out on Facebook and on Instagram. Stay tuned. Welcome back, cherished viewers. I know you're excited about the love and livingness segment for today, which is, when you cheat on your partner, must you tell? This is something that we all find ourselves in one way or the other. No, I haven't found myself in that situation before, but I want to believe that my guests here have been involved in such situations. So I'll listen to them, and then we hear what they have to say to that. Let me start with the legal person. Lawyer Lenga, tell us, when you cheat, do you think it's appropriate for you to tell your partner you cheated?
Well, let me also begin by saying I haven't found myself in that situation. And so I won't advise anybody to find himself or herself in that situation. But if the situation does arise, I think the most important thing to do is to probably know your partner very well. It helps you to know when, what, and how to to communicate it to him or her. So the decision whether to communicate or not to, the decision whether to tell him or her or not to, will depend on the person that you are actually going out with.
Okay, the person's temperament or personality.
Yes, you have to take all those into consideration. But let me just round up by saying that, truth always helps.
Yes.
Yes, truth. My doctor says like surgery. It's painful, but I think it heals faster than taking painkillers with lies, which will prolong the pain. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So maybe at the bottom, you should be telling the truth at all times.
I think I agree perfectly with the lawyer. But as is rightly put it all depends on the person you are dealing with. If somebody is very temperamental, you have to be careful and be careful about when to tell and what to tell. Even the atmosphere, the environment, all plays a role to play in that. So if you don't do that, it will rather create more problems, more stress, more anxiety, and things like that. So it's good if you decide that you want to tell. Maybe you have your own guilty feeling up there because of that you want to confess more or less and say, "Oh, I've done A, B, C, D," that kind of thing. But you have to actually exercise some caution in terms of the person you are dealing with. You don't just go in and be without any caution and be talking. It create more problems.
Okay, but then what I want to find out is, are you communicating or confessing to your partner when they're suspicious of it, or just randomly, because of your guilty conscience, you decide to? Because most of the time, your partner may probably suspect that you are cheating or not cheating, and then it may cause a few misunderstandings in the relationship. So is it at that point that you confess, or just out of your own goodwill, you decide to confess?
Well, you see, you know the U.S. military, they have something they call "don't ask, don't see." So for me, if you haven't asked, I'll also keep quiet because you may not know. Yeah. You may think you are confessing by trying to help the situation, but it might rather end up being the opposite. So if, like I said from the beginning, that truth should be the bottom line. If there's suspicion and you are asked or you are caught or whatever, you have to be forthcoming with the truth. But if you've done it on the blind side and you have been caught and all those, I'll be quiet until I'm asked. If I'm not
You
asked,
agree to that
Yeah,
as
I
well?
agree perfectly. If there's no suspicion, there's no concern, asking here and there, you better keep quiet.
Okay, so what if you cheated and it's over between you and the person you cheated with, but then, like I said, out of your own goodwill, your conscience, so you are no longer with the person, so you want to confess. It's still not necessary because the person doesn't
depends
know.
about the person you're talking. He doesn't know. She's there. Assume it's she who is a victim, and it's a guy who has gone to, cheat, and then she is there not saying anything, just quiet, and then you are coming to just say, oh, I have so-called conscience, which is worrying me, and I can't. No. You just create more additional trouble. You just keep it. Maybe you should go to, if whatever faith you belong to, maybe go and see your pastor or whatever,
And you
to
confess.
confess to him or her. Otherwise, you just create additional problems and confusion at home and between the two of you. So, sometimes truth is good, but
Is it necessary?
it's necessary. You must be very careful.
What do you have to say? Final words?
Yeah, so it's over between you and the person. What is the point? What is the reason? What is the rationale for going to tell the person that in the past when we were together I did ABC? If you have confessed out of good, we should have done it whilst we were still in a relationship.
Yeah.
If it's over, it's over.
Okay.
Let sleeping dogs
lie.
keep lying.
Well, you heard it all from our guests. What I also have to say is that I think I side with them. Until you are caught, there's no point coming out to say I'm confessing. However, if you must confess, if you are still in the situation and you think you must confess, for me, I think you should only confess at a point in time when you think you are done with whatever it is that you are doing. But you don't confess and still continue doing whatever it is that you are doing. If you're going to confess and still keep being with the person you are cheating with, it's not necessary because you're just going to make matters worse. You must be remorseful to want to confess your partner. But until you get to that point, like my studio guest said, it's not necessary confessing. And then I have one principle. If you are not caught, deny until you are caught.
Yeah, I agree.
You agree, right?
I agree.
Yes. Deny until you are caught. There is evidence. Deny. It could be anything. Deny. Because, like they said, the bottom line of everything is that the truth is important and it matters. However, at what point in time is the truth necessary? At that point that you want to confess, you have to weigh all the options and be ready for the clapback or whatever it is that will come at you when you confess. This is it. I hope you've learned something today. And if you're in that situation where you are wondering, I need to confess to my partner or not, first and foremost, I would advise you to stop cheating and concentrate, be exclusive.
I think that's the best advice.
Yes,
But
be
sometimes cheating
exclusive.
is good.
Cheating is good.
Cheating is good sometimes.
How does it become good?
And maybe it bring the best.
Just give us 1 minute. We were wrapping up.
Bring the best out of the other partner. There are degrees of cheating actually.
Okay.
Chit chatting, when you're not to chit chat, the other person feels jealous. Bring the best out of him or her. There's an
agree to
aspect
that?
of it that is good. Like pain. You cannot say pain is
It's
bad.
entirely bad.
That's a good aspect of pain. Pain makes you withdraw from the source of the pain. And you don't get hurt or bent.
The more.
The more. And get an injury. The same way you can compare, make an analogy to cheating. Cheating can bring the best. There's this potential other person there that if I don't, do things properly, he or she can go there. It makes you sit up.
But it's not in all situations.
No,
Because
It can dampen the spirit of the
it can
other
that
person.
for one,
And
it
it can be
dampens my
forever.
spirit
but then it
can be
forever.
forever.
And I can't
Aspect-
even give you my all.
No, there's another aspect of it that you just can't lose sight of.
You see,
It's
when trust is lost, it's very difficult to recover.
It's very difficult.
And so, if you are doing it for the purpose of going to bringing out the best of something, it means you want to do it for the person to see.
I'm not saying that it will bring the best out. Deliberate. It's not deliberate.
Okay.
But there's an additional aspect of it that.
If you are dealing with a person like me, who instead of it bringing out the best in me, it rather dampens
bring
my
the
spirit
worst.
and brings out the worst in me?
Bad.
Exactly.
Bad. That's what we are talking about. Yeah. But another aspect of it that I think, I'm not for any subscribing to polygamous relationship. But I mean, real
Part of the world,
yeah, part of the world, it is an issue. Okay, to the extent that one man is married to several women, more or less like that. The only thing that keeps that system running at our local setup is about the other person feels that if I don't put up my best, things don't go out properly. So I mean, it's part of it. I'm cheating underlines all those things.
It's fortunately, unfortunately, the two of us do not buy into Dr. Timothy's idea. That is his theory, but we don't believe in that. All too soon, we've come to the end of the first segment, which is the life and living segment. I hope you learned something and then you enjoyed it as well. Stay tuned. We'll be right back to the main topic. Welcome back, cherished viewers, to the main segment of today, and the topic is reproductive rights and abortion. I know you are wondering what reproductive rights are and whether or not we should exercise our reproductive rights. And I think the word abortion is common. Even a year-old baby knows what abortion is. Okay, so that's the issue for today, and then we need to look at it because it's become a very serious issue, and then the laws that are coming day in and day out about abortion or reproductive rights is becoming frightening. We are scared that if care is not taken, we will lose so many lives. In Ghana, for instance, you see that abortion is something that is not legalized until recent that it's been a bit legalized. Yes, but then until now, it's not legalized. And what that causes is that a lot of people end up, because they don't want the child, it was an unwanted pregnancy, they end up doing it underground, doing it the illegal way, which leads into so many deaths. Also, because of our religious background, both Christians and Muslims and traditionalists all frown upon abortion. So when a person, yet they frown upon abortion, however, they don't do anything to educate the youth on what to do to abstain or what to do not to get pregnant, which is our weakness. That will be a topic for discussion another time, whether or not the society, our churches, our Muslim community and traditionalists, whether or not they failed the society. But for now, that is the reason why a lot of people commit abortion illegally. That is because they don't have the right to do it in the open. We have statistics that are very alarming. In the year 2018, this is a global statistics, 42 million deaths was recorded on abortion. 42 million deaths. And this is abortion that was done in the legal settings, which can be recorded. So you can imagine the number of deaths that occurred through abortion that were not recorded. The record of total death last year, 2018, was 59 million. And that 59 million is excluding the 42 million deaths that resulted from abortion. That is a lot of percentage, which is more than the number of deaths that was recorded from malaria, HIV, AIDS, cancer, and what have you. Abortion death is a lot. What are we doing about it? If you look at the Ghanaian data on abortion, I have here with me from the Ghana Health Service in 2017, there were 53,114 abortions supervised in the public health facilities in this country. This only implies that we have about 146 abortions that are supervised in the public health sector every single day. This is what is recorded. The ones that we have no knowledge of, it's something else. Also, the unsafe abortion that we recorded in 2016 was 15,325 unsafe abortions. This and many more is what we have. If you look at the United States, an estimated 1 million babies are aborted each year. One of the leading causes of death in the US is abortion. Why is this the case? And then for you to get it, before we delve into the discussion, there is difference between abortion and miscarriage. Abortion is when you self-induce the pregnancy to come out. When it is miscarriage, it's not induced. You didn't do it deliberately. It just happened. But when it's an abortion, you induced it yourself. The statistics are alarming, but then I won't go into this deeper because we have experts here who would delve much deeper into the issue. So first, we would want to ask, What are reproductive rights in the first place? Counsel, can you help us with what reproductive rights is?
Well, in a loose sense, we will say your right to reproduction health. So it deals with what you want to do in terms of production, whether you want to give birth or not, how many children you want to give birth to, when do you want to give birth, with whom you want to give birth. All these things come to play. So again, it will vary into that arena you are talking about, as to when you have already conceived, your right to either terminate that pregnancy or to keep it.
Yeah.
So reproductive right encompasses so many other things, which the bottom line is what you do with your life in respect of reproduction, in respect of giving birth, and how many children you want to give birth, and all those things form part of what we do, what we term as reproductive rights.
Dr. Timothy, can you add something later?
Yeah, I think he said it all. Aside that, there are certain things that one consider when we're talking about reproductive health, fundamental reproductive right. It's a human right, of course.
Yes.
I mean, something like access to self-abortion is part of it. Legal and self-abortion is part of it. In our jurisdiction, I think another issue is about, among other things, about female genital mutilation, which is also part of it. It's part of the reproductive health right of women.
Okay.
And then access to education, reproductive health education, to be able to know that, I mean, this is information concerning sexually transmitted infection, STDs, and things like that. They're all part of the reproductive health rights of women. So, I think whatever he said, and this is just an addition to whatever he said, all part of what we call reproductive health. And every woman has a right to all those services.
When it comes to reproduction. Yeah. Okay, there is this medical historian, Norman Hines, who was of the opinion that medical contraceptives and all of those things are things that are part of everybody's fundamental need, and so it must be encouraged. What do you have to say to that, Dr. Moses? Since you're a medical practitioner.
Dr. Timothy. The issue, I mean, Norman Hines was a renowned American, I think he was a medical sociologist, did some lot of work on contraception and then birth control generally. I mean, a lot of literature, research work he did over the years. And it was true that, I mean, you cannot dissociate birth control from basic human right, because, I mean, the number of children, if you take a nuclear family in particular, number of children a woman in a nuclear family decides to have has a role to play in availability of the basic needs of that woman, for that matter, the family. Okay, so issues about basic rights like shelter, food, and clothing, they're all basic things. If you choose to have plenty children in a family, you're likely to have access to those things will go down. So there is a strong link between birth control and for that matter, reproductive right, and then the basic rights of basic needs of human beings. So, I mean, Himes was right about it.
Are you of the same opinion as Himes?
Yes. If we are going to put limits on or controls as to how people conduct abortion and all those things, definitely then you have to put in measures which will prevent them from getting into the stage of committing that supposed crime in the first place. So yes, contraception and all those things are part of reproductive rights.
Yeah.
If you do not have access to them,
so my point is contraception a fundamental human need? Do you think it's a fundamental? This is a human rights talk show, so let's get it from that angle. Yes. Is it a fundamental human need? Contraceptives.
No, it's not a fundamental human need.
Exactly, but Time was of the opinion that it's a fundamental human need, and so it must be encouraged.
Yeah, I think his argument was coming from, taking it from the point of view of basic needs.
Is it so? Then again, is it a fundamental basic need? Contraceptive.
Use of contraception for that matter, any method of the contraceptive method you are taking has a role to play whether you have access to the basic needs of man. Okay. As I said, shelter.
Yes.
If you're all plenty in this country, issues about housing, accommodation become problematic. Food will not be available. Those are basic needs. Clothing, basic needs.
Those are fundamental basic needs.
So the number of us available has a role to play in how those services are available to us. That's what he's trying to talk about. So you cannot divorce the economic aspect of contraception. the economic aspect of contraception, whether usage or non-usage, has a role to play in availability of basic needs, such as
for me,
food,
I think
shelter, and
what
clothing.
Haim said, it should be a need, okay? It should be provided, but I don't see contraceptives as a fundamental basic need.
Yes,
I don't see it as a
I agree.
fundamental basic need.
There may not be a direct relationship, but it's indirect.
Exactly, it's
Yes,
indirect.
Reproductive health generally is actually a fundamental right.
Yes, reproductive rights.
Yes,
Not
but specifically on access to contraception, I will agree with you that it is a right, but it shouldn't be termed as so fundamental because
Exactly. The council bears with me.
Of course, from human rights are in
perspective,
different stages.
Yes.
They are in different categories. Contraception cannot be termed as one of the so fundamental
not at
ones.
all. Not
Directly,
at all.
But that doesn't mean we are really.
It's getting a bit hot in here.
Directly,
The medical doctor
Yes,
thinks it
doesn't
is.
mean we are really on the fact that it is something
a
which
need.
is necessary. Yes. But except that we cannot equate it to like a right to life or maybe a right to the liberty of the person to roam around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question will go to counsel. Since he is a counsel, what kind of effect do you think that outlawing the use of contraceptives in this 21st century, what do you think, what would be the effect?
Wow. You see, we have to start from the bottom line that there are some things that are out of control now. You cannot determine when a couple have sex. That is one. And so if you are going to outlaw contraception,
Yes.
for example, then probably you may have to go with, abolishing all the prohibitions on abortion. Because the most natural, one of the, and I'm sure Dr. will bear me out, one of the natural consequences of having sex,
It's pregnancy.
especially if it's from man to woman, it's pregnancy. So if you are telling us nobody should use contraception, but then they are going to exercise their natural right of having sex. Then it means that either we multiply our number by 10 by 100 times in the next 2 years, or you take away all the laws or all the prohibitions on abortion, so that when the person gets pregnant
they can strictly
tomorrow
walk
the person can just walk away and then get it off. Other than that, what it will mean is that it will have a great consequence on our population, and I bet we cannot control that population any longer.
Maybe I'll take it from the health side. He's spoken globally, specifically for my job, daily job as a gynecologist, gynecologist. I can tell you that I do every day talk about contraception for every woman that I see at the clinic or in the labor wards or anywhere, because of the role contraception play in preventing pregnancy, unwanted pregnancy for that matter. So you don't want to have a baby, you don't get pregnant, and the only method to do that is about contraception. So taking contraception out of it, aside that is about complications of pregnancy. Maternal mortality. Girl-child education and things like that. When you try to engage people, you have an increment in contraceptive uptake. Family planning generally, people are using a lot of them. You get to say that all these risk factors all go down. Unwanted pregnancy go down, as you said earlier on. Unsafe abortion goes down. And complications in pregnancy, maternal mortality, maternal morbidity, bleeding, all those issues go down. So I think contraception as an intervention for, maybe as it's an add-on to human, reproductive rights. You cannot take it away. The ramifications will be too much. You may not be able to go.
Okay, I think I would want the two of you to talk on this because it's more, we are coming to blend a bit of morality with legality. Okay. What role do you think that our religion plays when it comes in terms of reproductive rights and abortion? Okay, because, for instance, we all know that the Catholic Church is against contraceptives. As a Catholic, if you know the doctrines, you can't use contraceptives because the Catholic doctrine is of the belief that contraception is the same as contrary to conception. So anytime you take something, you are interfering with God's purpose for us. Because there are people who have been married for 20 years, 30 years, 40, 10, 5, 2 years, who want to have kids, but then they cannot conceive. That is it. So then, the Catholics believe that it is only God who gives life. And for that matter, do not go to say that I'm going to do something that will be contrary to the natural conception. Because for God, there's nothing like a child out of wedlock, as the society has made it seem like there's a child out of wedlock. Because he purposes what child should come into the world at what time? People have money, they want to have kids, they are not getting, and somebody on the street who has nothing just goes to play and then is pregnant. God determines. That is the belief. So now, with the stand of Catholic Church, for instance, and other religious bodies that are against reproductive rights and also against abortion, what do you think the impact is on our society?
Well, I think if there is one of the areas that I can say the church's influence has been very low, it's actually in this regard.
Yeah.
I tell you, I'm a Catholic.
Okay.
And I know a lot of Catholics who know about this prohibition, but who day in, day out. Because the other consequences of not using it.
Pregnancy and
Yes.
abortion, yeah.
So the church, even though that today remains the doctrine of the church has not even been able to trumpet it very well.
Not at all.
Because it is something that you get an opposition from the society generally.
Yeah.
Once the church tries to propagate this message. So if you realize that the church has been quite quiet on that angle for some time now,
yeah.
even though it remains the position of the church that the contraception is against the doctrine of the church.
Yeah.
But it again, we talked about whether contraception should be available to anyone. In the absence of it, then what next? You see, before we got here, there had been several other measures to control population and all those things. America, for example, in the past, in the early 20th century and all those things, some of the states had laws which were for compulsory sterilization for some people.
Okay.
Yes, Virginia, for example, they were sterilizing lunatics or people who have some small mental disease or people they think if they give birth, their child will suffer from some defect or not. Oklahoma had a law which prohibited what they call habitual criminals. If you are convicted for two or more crimes, then you are determined habitual criminal. So they sterilize so that you don't give birth for your children to become criminals. We have gone through a lot before we got here,
yes.
where now people don't really talk about sterilization anymore because there are easier means of controlling birth. So if you are going to take away these things, we probably may be reverting back to the most serious ones, which actually was also some kind of dent on the rights of those people who were doers. Because it was not as if it's not like now people voluntarily go that I've finished giving birth, I want to be sterile, and then you sterile the person. This was compulsory kind of sterilization against the wishes of those people. So the church has a position, and I don't know whether, because I know that there are some other churches too who actually encourage procreation. I mean, they want to multiply, they want to be more, they want to dominate. So they're encouraging the people to give birth to 10, 20, 30, and all those stuff. So you have to balance. But I think the church has actually lost it. I don't want to generalize because I don't know the position of all the other churches. But because you mentioned the Catholic Church as an example, I think the Catholic Church has actually lost that fight, even though it still remains one of their core doctrines. I think they've lost it.
But I think, Council, you're right there. But globally, we see here pockets of that influence. I mean, the Irish situation where there's no contraception, that kind of thing, even abortion is a huge issue. But if I can make a guess, I think that one of the fundamental reasons maybe why the Catholic Church may be quiet in this part of the world is about our population. We already have a problem with population. I mean, Sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, issues about, I'm going back to the same place, basic human needs, food, shelter it's a difficult thing here. So if there's a method or any mean by which population the numbers of people should come down, I think that's another reason why the church seems to be quiet. But because you see pockets of, countries, I think Italy, there's some control about use of contraception. Yeah. I think Ireland is up there. Yes. So it's about the population we have here already that we are finding it difficult as society to take care of ourselves. Now, if there's a method by which to reduce the numbers, there's a church who is saying that don't do that. It becomes very, controversial.
Hold your thoughts. We take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue. This show is powered by the Grace Foundation and Family Affairs and also supported by Syllabite GH. You can follow them on Instagram or Facebook to check them out. They have delicious delicacies for all occasions. Contact them for everything you need for every occasion. We'll be right back. Welcome back, cherished viewers. So, as we were discussing, we were talking about the role religion plays in it, and then the stand of religion on reproductive rights and abortion, whether or not it's necessary. And then I would want to ask this: do you think that because of the role religion plays, okay, since they do not encourage reproductive rights and then abortion and contraceptives and all that, don't you think that what they should rather do is educate more? Like you said, reproductive right doesn't only include your right to have kids and whom to have it with. Like our council explained it, you expatiated more by saying that it includes STIs, okay, and being educated on it. Don't you think that, since the religious bodies are against it, they should educate us more on what to do to avoid unwanted pregnancies in the first place?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're talking about chastity or abstinence. That's another issue, very controversial issue.
That's for another day.
Yeah. So, again, okay. We're talking about religion here. That if I should make a guess, includes the Islamic religion.
Oh, yes, of course.
But I've never seen a Muslim talking about family planning. Control. No.
Not at all. They don't care.
Encourage, yes, as many as one is capable of. So for the discussion now is purely about the Catholic Church. And if you go to a typical Catholic hospital, issues about as I say, they are very down. They are not so vocal about pushing contraception.
Yeah.
Neither are they so
Completely against it?
Yeah, completely against it. Just like some neutral sort of. So, I mean, as part of others government-led effort to make contraception, family planning available, I think they're also working within the same thing. If you go to a typical Catholic hospital, I mean, healthcare is really available like any other government hospital, including, contraception, prevention, family planning. Methods have been, advanced every now and then. So they are doing their work as they should be, but not. They are not coming out to tell us that we should avoid pregnancy, avoid abortion by abstinence or by chastity. Okay, but in any case, by their services they provide, them is more or less part of what they are doing.
What is the
I think sex education is one of the fundamental things that the society has lost for a very long time. And this is purely influenced by, I think, our customs and our culture. Because, we feel that the person is a child, he doesn't have to know certain things, even certain parts of the body, he doesn't have to mention it. You can't do A, you can't do. But you see, the curiosity that children also have, they want to explore. So because you don't tell them, then they choose their own means of exploring, and once exploring, then they get themselves into all these kind of problems. So I think sex education is one thing that we need to take very serious, and I think it ought to be part of the school curriculum right from the beginning of our education system.
I agree, but I think that the school that I think the British the British, I think this year or something, there's something like that in their offering about the education department. It's about making health education available to the primary school students. Yes, I mean it's a good thing, but the traditionalists would think that it's just too early to be talking about sex education at that age.
No,
but I mean for them, I don't think maybe the age there should be an age gap.
Yeah. But
do you think there should be an age gap?
Sex education encompasses so many other things.
Okay.
So when you are starting from, let's say, class 1, what you teach in class 1
should be
different from what you will be teaching in class 6 or what you will be teaching there, because at different stages the children experience different
what
things.
do you think would be appropriate to be taught in class 1? Okay, class 1, what should be taught?
You see, okay, I'm not an educationist or something, but
ideally, what would you feel is okay see, if your 6-year-old child is taught?
Ideally, from the early stages to maybe when the children are reaching that stage of puberty, where they are likely to feel the urge for sex and all those things, I think we should hammer more on abstinence and the effects of sex and the consequences of having sex, what they can do. But when they are getting to that stage where they will feel the urge, you need to tell them. You need to tell them the options. You need to explain to them that this and this and this are what happens. This is A, this is B. Let them understand and try to help them to make an informed choice as to what they want to do. with their life.
For me, I think I agree. I agree with counsel because let me come in here, Doc. What I know that most kids of these days, okay, from like 4, 5, 6 years, they start asking questions about even if they wouldn't be taught about sex, okay, but then they should be taught about something like how pregnancy occurs. You know that is a question a lot of kids ask. As little as 4 years, they're asking, "Mommy, where did the baby come from? Daddy, where did the baby come from? How did they cut mommy's stomach to put the baby inside? Why did they put a boy? Why?" Kids ask this question a lot of times. They go for weddings, they see people kissing. They come back and they're like, "Oh, mommy, this person kisses. The wedding." So for me, I think what counsel is saying is it's in order. They should start teaching them as early as 6 years when they start primary one.
I think the general drift is that people they should be exposed. The knowledge should be there before they experience
it from outside.
Or experience it by themselves before puberty, all those things. They should have the knowledge. It helps better that way. But I still want to go that, we're in a very diverse environment. I mean, in terms of our cultural, traditional. So it will be a very controversial issue to be talking about sex education and even the age at which it should be done. I mean, maybe the educationists should look at it.
Yes, they can put everything together and then probably.
And the church should also talk about it. The church should also talk about it. The church shouldn't be silent on it.
You are right. I think when they go for Sunday school,
they should be taught. Yeah.
Let them understand the issues.
Let's not shy away from talking about sex and all of this reproductive rights.
But then again, as parents too from home, let us also try and do something about it. Because if you see the issue that the problem we'll be facing is if the children are being taught in school this and then they come back
home
and then their parents do not even want to listen to what they are saying about that because they don't think that there's something to be discussed with children at all. Yeah. You see, you cut that gap there and it won't solve the issue. In fact, to compound the issue. Yeah. So they would rather not come home and talk about it, but they'd rather find some other ways to either go and express or to talk about it somewhere else. And that will be more complicating.
All right. Let's move to the next question. I would want you to talk about either the negatives and then you talk about the positives. So in general, we've all said a lot about reproductive rights and abortion and everything, the use of contraceptives. What do you think are the negatives and the positives of the use of contraceptives or say the reproductive rights? Why must they be exercised? So maybe you talk about the positives and you talk about the negatives.
For my work, I don't want to be heard and seen.
Talking about negatives.
Negative aspect.
So you talk about the positives. Counsel,
no, I don't know what counsel will say, but I want people to pick contraceptive method. I want
because of your profession.
Yes, my workload goes down. People don't get pregnant, don't get complications here and there. You get it? So I don't want to be here talking about negative aspect of it.
Okay, so counsel, he will talk about the positives, and you hate on the negative.
The positives, I related to them earlier on. They are very diverse and they encompass a lot of things. We are talking about Ghana is one of the countries in Sub-Saharan Africa with the higher form of numbers of the maternal mortality ratio. Yeah. Number of pregnant women who are dying from pregnancy-related complications, very huge. Yeah. The last count, more than 300 maternal deaths for 100,000 lives. Yeah. That's a huge. When the wasting world, we're talking about single-digit figures. So the only way, and it's been found through research and everything, that contraception uptake, if there's an increment in contraceptive uptake, issues about pregnancy-related complications, pregnancy, morbidity, mortality goes down. So for me, if you take into consideration our resources, very scarce resources we have, the only one major intervention to prevent maternal mortality and morbidity is about encouraging people to go for family planning or to have some kind of birth control. If they do, the number of pregnancies goes down, the number of unwanted pregnancies go down,
your workload comes down.
Goes down, and people like I'll have less work to do. Okay, that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, that's for the individual level. For let's say a family who doesn't want to have 2 or 3 children to be able to take control over them, make sure that they go to the best of the education here and there, they are provided with the best of the food and that kind of including. As against having plenty because there's no birth control, there's no contraception. Then we can exaggerate it at the level of the country. A huge population is a huge burden to the country, for the government, for that matter. Issues about housing, issues about accommodation, issues about food shortage in the country, and even educational facilities People are falling sick. There's no hospital to go, no doctor to take care of them because the numbers are huge. So contraception, family planning, birth control is a huge aspect of it. That the positive aspect of it, I mean, we just can't talk about it. They are so huge.
Okay.
I mean, so
Yeah,
I
we'll
should be
take
talking about the
a-
positive.
yeah,
I don't want to go
it's
to
a
the-
lot.
there's
So
nothing
we,
negative.
because of time constraints, we will let counsel hit on just one or two negatives.
I think maybe one of the things when the doctors also talk about, especially when they talk about the positive aspects of contraception, is to let the people know that they are not foolproof.
Yeah.
You understand? And I think that is what is causing the problem. You see, you advise people that use condom, you won't give birth. Then people go on. It's almost like and again one of the reasons why, for example, the Catholic Church, for example, does not encourage the use of contraception. It's a license to have premarital, extramarital sex and all those stuff, which is what one of the things people say a lot against contraception. If you go to a secondary school, for example, you go and share condoms for the secondary school children. You are telling them that go and use it. So even if the person wouldn't have on his own gone to try it, anything like that, because you have given it that he has it. He has to try and use it because he gave it to you to be used.
Yeah.
So you will now find means and ways of getting it used.
That's a very good negative.
Can I ask you a question?
And then the other point about
No, you don't get to ask the question.
and the other point about birth control and all those things. You see, people tend to rely on it as the solution.
No.
And it doesn't work. So people use condoms and then they still get pregnant. People go for sterilization. They still face. They get pregnant. There are cases in the
and even contraceptives fail them.
Yes, there are cases in the UK.
And I thought no, counsel, doc, I'm not letting. No, I won't let you ask me.
You know
okay,
what? You know what?
Question.
I mean, contraception definition. That's simple definition. It's a method. Okay, that is used to prevent pregnancy. Okay, it's a method used to prevent pregnancy. So there are different types of contraception method. Okay, the few cancer has mentioned the condom. There's a male and a female one. I can tell you the success rate. I mean, that success rate, the figure is also dependent upon how it is used. Okay, it's user dependent. Okay, or the condom based. Okay, I mean the efficacy will go down, but we know for sure that issues about sterilization, both male and female, it's more or less 100% if done properly. Okay, so I mean, I think we should be very careful.
Are there no side effects?
I'm coming there.
So you see, I was thinking that's the negative he would have mentioned, but the side effects. Yeah, that's what I was expecting counsel to say. The side effects of contraception.
A recent case in the UK, as recent as I think 2009 or so, about 2 or 3 different cases where people have sued hospitals for having done sterilization and still getting pregnant.
No, I mean
you understand. So the point that I was trying to make is when we encourage contraception as a means of birth control, for example,
it's one of the methods of birth
control. So what people get in their mind is that when I use condom, when I do sterilization, I can have sex as many as I want and still not give birth or get pregnant, and that's what they do. So they will multiply or quadruple the number of times they would have now be having sex. And one of those things, I know the success rate for sterilization, for example, is very high. It's about 97 or something. But you may not be lucky, then you fall under one of the 3%.
Okay, in any case, we're talking about millions of people, 1 or 2 people getting failure. That failure, I can tell you that I do, I mean, what's called bilateral tubal ligation for female almost every now and then, okay? I can tell you that there are a lot of factors involved. I cannot say that there are method-related failures. Maybe the way the procedure is done, okay? So the method itself is foolproof. It's 99.something% if it's done properly. But if it's not done properly, you can get failures here and there. It's like any other institution. The same way, I mean, if you don't take contraception, then the next is about abstinence, right? Abstinence is one of the flawed methods of.
Okay, so let's Doc. Counsel didn't say, so I want you to say something little on it. Since we are going to be educating people on reproductive rights, and then that would entail using contraceptives. Yes. I want you to tell us, in educating them, would you let them know that yes, contraceptives can help you not get pregnant? Yes. However, will you educate them on the effects?
Yeah,
the
we do.
the effects of
the
and
side
what
effects.
it can
Yes. No, we
what
do.
it can cause to
do.
you as a woman who
Yes.
has probably never
Yes.
given birth, and all of people do not know that because I know the youth abuse contraceptive.
Okay, I made a statement that for me as a service provider who is very interested in increasing uptake of contraception methods, I will be very silent. It's a very, I mean, it's a rational thing, very silent. That tells you that the side effects we are talking about, that also depends upon the method, the particular method we are talking about. Okay, we can classify them technically as hormonal based, non-hormonal based of contraception. The hormonal based, there are some side effects. I can tell you for a typical family planning clinic, maybe the one we have in my unit at Legon, all these things are discussed as much as possible, okay? To the extent that each method should be taken, clients should be taken through each of the methods and their side effects elaborated as much as
Okay,
possible.
of
They
each.
decide that's not supposed to be done, okay? But like any other human institution, I'm not by any whatever saying that people don't sometimes just be silent about that. But the aim is that if a particular method is chosen, okay, per that method, there are bound to be some side effects associated with it. So we cannot just, I mean, bundle
all of them
everything
together.
together and said contraception is bad.
All right.
I mean, recently, you see, something
We
like
are running out of time,
okay,
so
okay. Something.
yeah.
Let me just give you an example. Something
Okay.
like a closure of the tube, the bilateral tuber ligation, okay, which is done as a procedure just after a woman has delivered, or is done when the woman is having cesarean section. Okay, it's consented. There's a whole. It's considered as a surgical procedure. Documents are signed that I want this to be done for you. It's one of the methods that is permanent contraception once provided. This side effects more or less free. There's no side effects. Okay, so we should take each one of those, try and disaggregate them and pick one of them, each one of them, and speak to them as far as the side effects.
All right, we will take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we will delve into the last aspect of it. This show is powered by Nupe's Foundation and Family Affairs and also supported by Syllabus G8. We'll be right back. Welcome back, cherished viewers. So before we left, we're talking about the positives and negatives of contraceptives. Now, we are going to look at, recently there's been the back and forth about either outlawing abortion and contraceptives the world over. We would want to know what you have to say about that because, for instance, in Alabama, we know that recently it's been ruled that if a doctor conducts an abortion for a person who was raped, which before then it was okay for a rape victim, the pregnancy to be aborted. Now, in Alabama, they are saying that if you abort such a pregnancy, the doctor would face 99 years imprisonment, which I think is unfair because it's pregnancy out of rape. And then out of the pain and everything I went through whilst I was being raped, I don't think I want to keep that child. So I reserve every right to terminate it. What do you think about that law?
Well, I mean, from a jurisprudential point of view, laws are really made sometimes to meet certain needs of society. I do not know specifically because, like you said, this is just a recent law.
Yeah, recent law, yes.
I do not know what informed the lawmakers in Alabama to take such a harsh decision, but I'm sure it must have been something which is happening because I do know that the exception for rape has been one of the ways you can conduct a legal abortion. A lot of doctors have been abusing it. So somebody elects to abort a child, she walks to the hospital because the doctor knows that he cannot perform the abortion without any reason. He will say that he was raped, then they will perform the abortion. Or maybe the child has a defect when the child does not even have a defect. Then they will do the abortion because those are some of the exceptions that most of the laws or provisions on abortion give.
Yeah.
So, but because people know that exception, people try to hide under the exception and abuse the exception and do the abortion even when the exceptions are not available. And I do not, like I said from you, I do not know exactly what informed the decision in Alabama. But I'm sure some of these things might have come to play.
Yeah.
Because you want to solve it. You have a problem you want to solve. Remember when we talk about the legalization of abortion, it's actually a balancing of a right. It's the right of the woman as against which is the reproductive right, as against the right
Of
of the child in the womb.
Yes.
And it is not that the child has no right because he has not yet been born.
Yeah. The child has
fetus
rights.
has rights.
Yeah.
And so you have to balance the two rights. And and if you go into, and that's what we do in human rights always.
Yeah.
You balance, because every right has a responsibility, and that responsibility carries with another right, which is the opposite right. So you balance the two rights, and then see that which right should override at any particular stage. So a lot of thinking has to go into this, whether you want to legalize abortion, whether you want to create exceptions, what are the exceptions you should create, and all those things. I am sure the Alabama case, even though, as I said, I see it to be to the extreme, but I'm sure something must have happened which probably have triggered this, which I do not know as I sit here.
Okay, so it's like you mentioned the fetus. Most people think that because they are the ones living, it is their right, okay, to decide whether to have a child or not. But one thing that we are all forgetting to understand is that the fetus has rights. Maybe a lot of us do not know that. But the moment you conceive, a little over 6 weeks, or when the heartbeat can be detected, that fetus has rights as equal as yours. And so you don't decide that you are taking away the fetus because the fetus isn't born yet. No. So far as the heartbeat can be determined, that is also a human being, and the right of that person, that child, must be protected. So in some countries, they put that in place to determine at what point to have an abortion and at what point not to have an abortion. I want us to look at this. In recent times, reproductive technologists have come up with sex selection and then the surrogacy effects, having a surrogate mother and all that. What can you say about that? Is it all part of the reproductive rights? I'll let Doc talk about that.
Sex selection, I think, it's something that's very common, for sure, in China, because of this legalization of one child, one family policy. Okay, to the extent that the potential parents feel that having a male child is better than a female child. So there's what they call female fetus side. I mean, they end up terminating the female fetus at the expense of the male fetus. Yes. As to whether it is a reproductive right, I mean, I think it's because the legal regime has more or less pushed couple into a corner where it's like they want to survive. So the only way to survive is that there's an impression that the male child is a better option compared to the female child. I disagree with that person, if you ask. So that shouldn't be part of it's not a reproductive right.
Okay.
Right.
So, counsel, do you think that reproductive rights, issues on reproductive rights, should be left to women to decide? Since, like you earlier on stated, it affects we women more than it affects men. Yeah. So do you think it is an issue that should be left to we women to decide on our own, outside of any sort of legislative influence?
I honestly don't think so. The society has
a part to play.
Okay. Because there are so many other things that come with it. You spoke about surrogacy, for example. Yeah. Surrogacy has created so many problems elsewhere. Who is the actual parent of the child? Yeah. Is it the person who donated the sperm and ran away, or the woman who carried it for somebody else? Yeah. When she was carrying the baby, she knew she was carrying it for somebody else.
That's a topic for another day.
There are so many issues. There are so many issues with it, and if you leave it ajar for people to decide, the society will end up in chaos. So yes, of course, the society has to step in. Legislation has to take into consideration also the right of the actual persons who are affected by it. And in this case, like you are saying, since women tend to be the people who are mostly affected, I think the legislation should take into consideration the peculiar nature of the woman and all the things that they go through in trying to do to put any restrictions on some of these rights.
I agree with counsel with respect to the surrogacy in particular. But some couple can just not have a child. Okay, they have somebody who can carry the children for them.
I think if I have money, I'll go for that.
So there should be a legislative instrument in place to just everybody. The Americans do it well.
They do it a lot.
The Indians provide
Indian women and in America they have what they call the Unified Parentage Act, which determines who is the legal parent.
So
no matter what you agree, but it is still creating problems. And some of the states are not even adopting it.
Yes, it's not.
You understand? The surrogacy rights.
No, the Unified Parentage Act, which is the one who deals with parentage in terms of surrogacy. Even some of the states are not adopting it because it still has a lot of issues and it still creates a lot of problems for it.
But I think that
legislation doesn't solve all problems. Yeah. It is just a first step. But there are so many other triggers.
But since we are running out of time, a quick one. What is the current law on reproductive? I don't even think Ghana we have. There's no law on reproductive rights in Ghana here. But then I think there's a law on abortion.
There's a law on abortion. There's a very, very tribal law on abortion. And I think the
council would,
the earlier one about, I mean, the indication, and he's saying that we the same provider, we hardly abuse it. But I disagree with it. There are various reasons why pregnancies are terminated in this country. Okay, I
support council. They are abusing it.
No, I'm not sure. I'm not.
But just one quick correction. The Public Health Act actually has so many provisions in it which talks about reproductive rights. So it is not a reproductive right law per se, but it has aspects of reproductive rights. And in fact, one of the schedules has what they call the rights of patients, which some of them include reproductive rights.
I don't know the right of the let's say germ cell, the sperm and egg donors will be taken as a
that's like I said, that's also a topic for another day. Yeah, okay. The rights of the egg donors and all that.
Somebody has a wife, they can't have children because of peculiar reason. Yeah. Somebody is ready to take the fetus, as a surrogate mother and take and that kind of thing. I don't know whether, I think that it should be a really right for the couple who need to make, to protect them also to be able to have a child, okay, through somebody's services. That is right. Because people pay for it.
They pay.
Commercially is more.
They pay.
Well, all too soon we come to an end. But then just a quick one. As at the end of the first quarter of 2019, that is 31st March 2019, the rate of abortion death is 10 million, just the first quarter.
I think it should be qualified unsafe abortion.
Unsafe, okay. Unsafe, I've been corrected. Unsafe abortion is 10 million. And as we stated before we started the show, last year, unsafe abortion recorded 42 million deaths, which was more than the death of any other cause. And this year, just the first quarter, we already have 10 million deaths. This shows that whether or not we like, council want to say something. We are running out of time, but
I'm not trying to. But I want to just say something about the statistics that you are talking about. You know, one of my greatest mentors, Justice VCRAC Cram, he said something about statistics. He says that he doesn't like statistics. And the reason is that statistics, they are like a lady's bikini. He said what they reveal are very suggestive, but what they conceal are very vital. And I just need to make it because of all the figures you are churning out. You have to put all the figures into context and see that sometimes the figures may be suggestive of something, but it might not bring out the true picture of what is on the ground. Yeah.
So in all of it, what we have to do is that every woman or every man should exercise their reproductive rights. But to what extent do you exercise that reproductive rights against the fetus that also has rights? If you want to do anything, it shouldn't be an abortion. You should ensure that it's either you use any of the reproductive rights methods that you have, either abstinence, use of contraceptives, safe contraceptives. Do something about it, but make sure that you don't get pregnant and then go to have unsafe abortion, because in that sense, as a human rights talk show, we are looking at the rights of each and every person who has breath, and that fetus after 6 weeks has breath, and the rights of that person must also be protected. We've come to the end of today's show. Thank you, Lawyer Alenga, and also thank you, Dr. Timothy, for coming on the show. I think I would invite Dr. Timothy to come on the show when we are talking about rights of surrogate mothers, egg donors, and then all that. We will need Dr. Timothy to come back to the studio. That'll be all for today.
That's actually my area.
That's your area, right?
My subspecialty area. I wanted to say that issues about abortion in the Southeast Asian countries, abortion is part of the contraceptive method. Okay. So a woman can walk into an abortion clinic as part of contraception. Yeah.
Okay.
Just they call it, washing of the womb, just like that. So it's part of. You go to Vietnam, Laos, those countries, because of the huge population, they can go there. So
that's the reason. The reason is because they have adopted, like China, for example, where they are doing one family, one.
As you can see, my guests, if I give them the opportunity, they will talk, and this episode will not come to an end. But then, whatever has a beginning has an end, and so we have to end today's show. Thank you for tuning in. Please do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on your notification, and stay up to date with all the exclusive content on human rights that we bring to you on Human Rights Talk with Nupes. Also, to sponsor this show, please contact any of the numbers that are scrolling below or send an email to the numbers. We need sponsors on this show to help us make it great and better. I'm Ama Nupe, and you just watched Human Rights Talk with Nupes. Thank you.